Hey guys, so today, as promised, we're going to be doing a review and demo on the Giorgio Armani Maestro Glow Nourishing Fusion Makeup. This isn't going to be a first impressions video. I have been trying this foundation for about a week now. I was going to do a first impressions, but I kind of wanted to get like a full opinion about the foundation before I started talking about it, since it is a little bit more pricey. So with that being said, we're still going to do a demo and everything, and then we're going to review it at the end. I'm just going to read straight from the Sephora website a little bit about the foundation. It says, it's a foundation infused with oil and pure pigments for a sheer coverage and lasting glow. The newest innovation from Giorgio Armani brings nourishment and glow to the weightlessness of the Armani Maestro Fusion Foundation. The formula is a biphase elixir that provides a lasting glow. Formulated with oils fused with pure pigments, it provides a sheer coverage and SPF 30 sun protection. So based on those claims, it's supposed to be a very sheer, light coverage, very dewy, luminous finish, and those things are definitely all true. I can tell you that now. But we're going to jump into the demo first and then talk a little bit more about the pros and cons later. But this is the actual packaging. It does come with a dropper. And like it said in the description, it is infused with oils. So it's very important that you shake it before you use it, because it does separate when you let it sit. I don't know if you guys can see on camera, but this part right here is like all the oils separated, and then the foundation's down here at the bottom. So you definitely got to shake that up before you use it, or you're not going to get the full effect of the foundation. It is a very liquidy consistency. I'm going to drop a couple drops here. It looks like water basically, and for shade reference, I did get mine in the shade 6.25, just so you guys know. And I'm going to be blending it out with my Beauty Blender. I've tried it with the Beauty Blender and a brush. I prefer the Beauty Blender just because I feel like it soaks into the skin a little bit more and gives a more natural kind of finish. And with the brush, I feel like it kind of sits a little bit more on top of the skin. It definitely still looks really good with the brush. You can totally use a brush, but I just prefer it with the Beauty Blender. Stuff does blend out super easily. It blends out in like 5 seconds. So this is what it looks like before and after. It looks absolutely beautiful on the skin. It's definitely a light to sheer coverage, and it's almost completely undetectable, but it does a really, really good job at just evening things out. If you have any like prominent blemishes, it's really not going to cover them, but if you just have some like uneven skin tone, it's going to look absolutely beautiful and just look like your skin. When I tell you it's like undetectable, it's almost completely invisible on the skin. It's so crazy. I've never come across a foundation that looks this much like your own skin. It's awesome. It's definitely a very luminous, dewy foundation. As you guys can see on camera, it almost looks like I'm wearing highlighter, which is really awesome. If you guys like a dewy foundation, this one is definitely up your alley. But I do have a little blemish right here. I don't know if you guys can see on camera, but it's not covering that. The rest of my skin looks absolutely beautiful. I wish my skin looked like this all the time. It looks very glowy and healthy. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other side of my face. It feels very comfortable and light on the skin. It almost feels like a luxury skincare like product you're putting on your face, like a serum. It's very serum-like, but it feels really light. It doesn't feel heavy or cakey at all, and it's not clinging to any dry spots. It's doing a really good job at just hydrating the skin and making everything look very nourished, I guess the word is. Like nourished and healthy. That's one thing. That's one way I would describe this foundation. It makes your skin look very nourished and healthy. So this is what it looks like just by itself. If you have any pronounced dark circles or anything, it's not going to do a very good job at covering them up. So I do like to go in with some concealer, and I'm going to show you in a second how you can make it look like a little bit more fuller coverage with the concealer. But I love it for just like a very effortless, natural kind of look if you're just running out and you want your skin to just look like very perfected and even. But what I like to do if I'm going to be wearing it more of like a going out kind of foundation instead of just during the day, I like to go in with the concealer and highlight and cover up some dark circles, and after all that it does look like a more fuller coverage because it does do a good job at evening out the rest of the face. So I'm going to go in with my NYX HD Concealer in the shade 04, and I'm just going to do some concealing and highlighting. And you guys will see, I'm going to cover up that blemish too, so you guys will see how it makes it look like a little bit more fuller coverage. And then just blend that out with the Beauty Blender. So you guys can see now the difference with the concealing and the highlighting. It doesn't even look like a sheer light coverage foundation anymore. It looks more full coverage. The one thing I do want to mention with this foundation is that I do recommend setting it with some kind of powder, because since it is so emollient, even if you have dry skin, I think you're going to get the best wear time if you set it. The good thing about this foundation though is that after you set it, it doesn't lose its luminosity like some dewy foundations can. When you set them, sometimes they just start to look flat and they lose that glowy look, but this one doesn't. The oils in it will definitely shine through that powder and you won't lose that luminosity, which is awesome. So my pros and cons, even though I don't really have any cons, just kind of some things worth mentioning. Starting with the pros. So like I was saying before, it looks absolutely beautiful on the skin. It's virtually undetectable and it looks like your skin, but just like a better version of your skin, which is great. It blends amazing and it's very luminous and dewy. If that's something you're into or looking for, I think this one will definitely be the winner. If it's not, then you're not gonna like this foundation. And this one I got about a good 5 hours of wear time until I started to get noticeably oily just in my nose area. So I do think that it is long lasting for a dewy luminous foundation. Usually those tend to break up on me, and this one stayed pretty good for a good solid 5 hours without having to touch up, so I really appreciate that. Another thing I love about it is that it looks absolutely amazing in pictures. With the flash, there is a slight flashback. It does have an SPF 30 in it, so that's probably the reason why. But given that it is an SPF 30, the flashback is nowhere near as bad as it should be. In regular pictures, forget it. Absolutely beautiful. Your skin looks amazing. Now moving on to the things that aren't so great about the foundation, even though they're not like detrimental, it only comes in 9 shades, which isn't so great, but it varies, so I think that most people will be able to find their shade. It does start to settle into some of my fine lines, like my smile lines, within like 3 to 4 hours, which is a pretty good wear time, honestly, but it was pretty noticeable. You would definitely have to touch up a little bit if you have pretty deep fine lines or smile lines. I think that it would settle into those. Last thing that kind of stinks about it is that it doesn't do a good job at covering up blemishes or like pronounced breakouts or anything. It is marketed as a sheer light coverage foundation though, so I wasn't expecting that, but it just looks so beautiful on the skin that I wish it had just like a little bit more coverage. But I think this foundation would be best suited for very dry to normal skin. I have combination skin, so I'm very dry, but I have a tendency to get oily in my T-zone, and I did get oily throughout the day. Kind of when I hit that 5 hour mark, I was pretty oily in my T-zone. So I don't think this would be best suited for oily skin. I don't think it's going to be your favorite foundation just because it is very emollient and luminous and dewy. Usually people with oily skin don't want that. So I think I covered everything. If I didn't, feel free to leave me any questions down below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!